Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video I chose a very nice game from Aron Nimzowitsch versus Spielmann, and this game was played in Caro-Kaan defense, which a lot of you guys requested me to talk about this opening a little bit more. So let's dive into it. So this game was played quite some time ago in 1905, and Spielmann is playing as white, as you can see on the board, and Nimzowitsch is playing as black. So as you may know, we have Caro-Kaan defense after e4 and c6. Here white has different moves, but the most popular move here is to play d4, although white can also play knight f3, or even some moves like d3 is also possible, but these moves are not that common in this position. So white played d4, black played d5. Black is attacking the center, the pawn is under attack. White played knight c3 here to protect the pawn. Another move that white can play in this position is to take the pawn on d5, which is an exchange variation. White can also push the pawn, which is an advanced variation in Caro-Kaan defense. All of these moves are possible, so you can choose between e5, e takes d5, or knight c3. But there is another move here, knight d2, which basically does the same thing as knight c3. It protects the pawn, and you want to develop your knight. Okay, so but in the game, white played knight c3, black took the pawn, white took the pawn, and black played knight f6. White played knight g3, and here black played e5, which was an interesting move. Okay, let me go back a little bit, because in this position after knight f6, which actually is quite I would say popular nowadays, everyone is playing knight f6, to be honest. The best move is probably to capture the knight, and here black usually captures with the pawn e file, and then white can play c3, and then black plays bishop d6, and white can play bishop d3. Let's say castle, queen c2, rook e8 check, knight e2, h6 or h5, and then white can either castle short or castle long, but we don't want to discuss about this position, so let's get back to the game and see what happened in the game. So white played knight g3 here, and black played e5, which is an interesting move. The idea is, if white takes the pawn on e5, black wants to take the queen, king takes, and after knight g4, black is attacking both pawns. So let's go back. That's why in this position, white played knight f3 to attack the pawn and also protect the pawn on d4 as well. White took the pawn, knight takes d4. Another move that was played before was queen takes d4, which was played in Caro-Kaan's game versus Capablanca in New York 1927. I believe it was their world championship match, actually. And here Alexander Caro-Kaan, the fourth world champion, he took with the queen in this position, and after queen takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop c5, he moved the knight to b3 to attack the bishop. But anyway, let's go back to the game, because in the game after e takes d4, white took with the knight, and then black played bishop e7, bishop e2, castle, castle, so both players are playing standard moves. King h8. King h8 is a little bit inaccurate, because we don't need to move the king to h8 in this position, but a better move here probably is to play bishop c5 to attack the knight. Another move that I can suggest here is to play bishop d6, but it's kind of difficult for black to develop his queen side, So that's why Nimzowitsch played king h8 here, which was not the best move. And then Spielmann played b3. The idea is to fianchetto the bishop, to put the bishop on this diagonal to attack the king. Black played knight g8. So basically Black is going with the plan that he had after king h8. He wanted to probably move the knight to g8. So bishop b2, knight d7 now, knight f5. The idea is to checkmate the king in one move. So let's say if Black, I don't know, moves the queen to e8, we have a beautiful checkmate on g7. So here Black played bishop f6 to block this bishop, and then White played bishop a3, a great move. You're attacking the rook on f8, and Black took here on a1. If Black moves the rook instead, we can play bishop h5 to attack this pawn, or knight d6 to attack this pawn, the rook. So White's position is completely winning here actually. But anyway, Black decided to take the rook on a1. And this was a dubious move. So White took on a1. Now our idea is to capture the pawn on g7 and checkmate the king. But also we kept this threat as well. So Black played knight f6. White played rook d1. He attacks the queen, and Black cannot defend both pieces, because notice that the rook is still under attack. So Black played queen e8. He's protecting this rook, but this was a mistake. Okay, at this point Black's position is not easy to defend, but I want you guys to pause the video at this moment and find the best move for White, because here Spielmann found a very nice move, a tactical move to basically increase his advantage and win the game. So what did he do here? He sacrificed the knight on g7, a brilliant move. It's really rare to get a brilliant move if you're playing on chess.com, right? And here knight g7 is definitely a brilliant move, and the reason is the knight is attacking the queen, and if the king takes the knight, like what happened in the game, okay, if the king doesn't take, we have this idea, the king is trapped and so on. But let's say the king takes, then White can play rook d6. In this position, the knight is pinned, so the idea is to move the knight to h5 and put pressure on this knight. If Black wants to move the king to g6, the knight is still pinned, so it's not a great idea to play king g6. And besides that, we can just play bishop d3, attack the king, and if the king, let's say, move to h6, we can take the knight, knight takes, queen takes, and this is a checkmate. Okay, let's go back into the game. So after queen e8, we took on g7, he took here, we played rook d6. I mean, Spielmann basically played this move. But anyway, Nimzowitsch played bishop e6, and here Spielmann played knight h5 check. The king is under attack. The king moved to g6, and now what is the best move for White? White played another great move here. This might be a tricky move. It's not that easy to find this move, but I want you guys to stop the video and find the best move for White. How can White go for a checkmate? Or how can you create a mating net for the king? Yes, indeed, the move is queen e5, and at this point Black just resigned. So what's the idea? The idea is that we are protecting our knight, and we want to move the bishop to d3 and checkmate the king. So let's say in this position, let's imagine that Black plays rook d8 to attack our rook. Now we can check on g3, and if the knight goes to g4 to block the queen, we can simply take king h6, and now we have one move. Checkmate. Beautiful checkmate, isn't it? Notice that the knight is protected by the bishop. Okay, so let's go back, and here instead of rook d8, if black plays something else like queen d7, okay, it makes the checkmate a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter, we can still check. And let's say knight e4, we can queen g7 check. Okay, this is not the only way to win, but this is the easiest, sorry, this is the fastest checkmate. So queen g7, king takes h5, and then we can play bishop e2 check, bishop g4, queen h7 check, king g5, and then bishop c1. We're basically moving all of our pieces, so all of our pieces are participating in this attack. And after knight d2, we can just take the knight and checkmate the king. So this is just a checkmate. Okay, let's go back to the game, because after bishop e6, knight h5, king g6, queen e5. So in this position, after queen e5, black just resigned because there is no way to defend the position. And if we go back, instead of bishop e6, let's say if black wants to create a square for himself by pushing the pawn on h6 to create this square, we can play knight h5. And let's say king goes to h7, we can take the knight takes, we can take the queen. And now the idea is to take on h6. So let's say if he blocks the queen and the rook, we can check on d3, and after king g8 we can play bishop b2, which is a beautiful move. We reroute the bishop to the other diagonal so we can take advantage of the weaknesses around the king. And okay, here whatever black does, we can just checkmate the king in one move, and it's not possible to stop this checkmate. Okay guys, so this is one way to play against Caro-Kaan defense as white. I hope you guys enjoyed this game, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.